NBA champions, a level of success that all teams strive for. There are franchises that have been around for decades and have never been able to claim this amount. Whether that be because of bad luck or bad management is for you and me to talk about another day. Then there are super teams. Teams that have been manufactured by management to become virtually unstoppable. A group of stars who flock to a big market, collect a championship or two, and get a huge payday elsewhere. Then there is a level of success only reached a handful of times in NBA history. Dynasty. A team that started at the bottom and made all the right moves to become NBA champions, and then made more moves to become NBA champions again, and again, and again, until every year becomes a search for someone in the opposite conference to see who will take home second place. We've seen these in the Celtics in the 50s and 60s, the Celtics and Lakers in the 80s, the Bulls in the 90s, the Lakers in the 2000s, and I think we're seeing one right now, the Golden State Warriors. The 2009 Golden State Warriors. They were, to say the least, not good. They finished 29-53 with a roster that could be described as rather underwhelming. They didn't really have a direction, as half of their lineup was really young, but the other half were reaching double-digit seasons in the NBA. They had the worst defense in the NBA, but also had potential. They were second in offense as well as first in pace. If only they had a young player who could make them even faster and better on offense. Oh look, they just drafted Steph Curry. Steph Curry was seen as a product draft pick, which was just fine for a rebuilding team. His first 2 seasons showed little improvement for the Warriors, but they still stuck to their good fast-paced offense with awful defense. That summer, they drafted another guard to help their space and pace named Klay Thompson. The following season was a lockout, but the Warriors again had good offense, bad defense, and bad pace. They then draft Harrison Barnes and take a shot at a player in the second round. He was a mixed player who didn't fit any clear mold, but might help with pace, Draymond Green. They make the second round, losing to the Spurs in 6. That summer, they acquire former NBA All-Star Andre Iguodala, improve to 50 wins, but then lose in the first round. They fire the head coach after the disappointing season and move on to former Bulls player Steve Kerr. Looking at some old articles, it sounds like there wasn't anything amazing about Steve Kerr, the Warriors just needed change. This season, however, they would find something special about Kerr, his system. His system allowed for excellent spacing for Curry to do what he wanted, as well as open up things for Klay and Draymond, who at the time was an okay shooter. This allowed them to have the best offensive pace in the NBA, while also having the best defensive rating, but that didn't translate to games well as they allowed the 15th most points. Draymond Green's improvement was big, going from around 6 points and 5 rebounds to 12 points and 8 rebounds, as well as adding about half a steal and a block a game. Klay had already established himself as a second option, but this year was the year he broke 20 points per game as well as shooting 44% from 3. Then there was Wardell Stephen Curry II. He had a pretty similar season for his last as far as basic statistics, but his true shooting percentage went up about 3 points, which was enough for him to win league MVP. These stars, with a combination of great role players, led to 67 wins and a trip to the finals in which they won. Kyrie and Kevin Love were both injured, so they pretty much only beat LeBron, but that didn't matter to them. They were NBA champions. In 2016, there was a lot of pressure on them still. Lots of people saw their finals win as a fluke that wouldn't have happened if Kyrie and Kevin Love didn't get injured, and through the season, they were proving everybody wrong. Draymond elevated his game again, increasing to 14 points, 9.5 rebounds, and 7.5 assists. This level of playmaking was a revolution for someone in a position that he was. He also shot 39% from 3, making him a legit good 3-point shooter, but a lot of time this came from teams having to leave him open to keep Steph and Klay from shooting. Klay didn't improve much, but not improving much for Klay still meant being the second best shooter in the league, and the only reason he wasn't first is because of his teammate. This season, Steph exploded, averaging 30 points on 45, 55, 90 shooting splits on 11 3-point attempts per game. He also led the league in steals for good measure. All of this made him the first ever unanimous MVP, as well as leading the Warriors to a record-breaking 73-9 record. It looked like nothing could stop them until it did. They went down 3-1 in the conference finals to the OKC Thunder, but were able to come back. This was worrying to some as it showed they were beatable, but also showed they could handle adversity. Then there was the finals. After going up 3-1 to the Cleveland Cavaliers, Draymond was suspended for Game 5, resulting in a loss. In Game 6, Curry had 30 and Klay had 25, but they both shot poorly while LeBron had 41 on amazing efficiency. Then came Game 7. Everyone for the Warriors disappeared, except Draymond, who actually had 32, but LeBron had a triple-double. Kyrie had 26, including a huge 3, and LeBron had the greatest block in NBA history. Cavaliers were NBA champions after being down 3-1, and the Warriors were shocked. I think we all know what's about to go down, and there are a lot of conflicting opinions on this, so let me explain this from the perspective of the Warriors front office and why this was a good move. The Warriors were just one win away from the NBA championship. They could have just run it back with the same players and hoped they didn't choke, and they probably would still be the favorites. Instead, they made a good situation great and went out and signed Kevin Durant. Is Kevin Durant's decision to go to the Warriors a bit of a stake move? Yes, but I also think if KD had made this move today, he wouldn't get nearly as much backlash with the changes we've seen in player empowerment. Plus, at the end of the day, a championship's a championship. Will it be as valuable as LeBron's in 2016? No. But to not count it is dumb. Anyways, this team was virtually unstoppable in 2017 as they went 16-1 in their playoff run for another championship. Then they pretty much ran it back, and after a small scare with the Rockets, won the 2018 NBA championship. I don't even need to give you any stats because this team wasn't about stats. Anyone in their big three could put up 30 to 40 any given night while the other two drop an effortless 20 and prove why they are one of the greatest teams ever assembled. Then, that summer they signed an injured DeMarcus Cousins for $5 million, and their already unstoppable team had just become the most talented team of all time. Or at least, that's what it seemed like. Through the 2019 season, there were not many signs of concern for the Warriors. They won 57 games without even looking like they were trying. DeMarcus Cousins wasn't playing the same as before, but he still averaged 16 and 8 with a steal and a half and a block and a half a game, which is all they really need from their fifth recent All-Star on the team. The Big Three maintained their play from the previous season, and now with a complete starting five, they're ready to run through the playoffs. DeMarcus Cousins sustained a quad injury in the Clippers series, and then in the Rockets series, Kevin Durant got injured. They were supposed to be back by the finals, so everything seemed fine until it wasn't. Cousins came back for the finals, but clearly wasn't 100%. Iguodala also came back from an injury and wasn't 100% either. Then, Kevon Looney messed up his collarbone and missed a game, returning for Game 4, but struggling even lifting his arm. Klay also strained his hamstring in Game 2 and missed Game 3. Here's where things start to get really bad. Durant returned for Game 5, just to rupture his Achilles, and then in Game 6, Klay tore his ACL. Some people, for some reason, try to act like the Warriors played bad and the Raptors were just better. I believe in the fact that a championship is a championship, but everyone tries to make it so 2015 doesn't count, but I feel a lot less people talk about this finals being even worse. I think people said this just to create some sort of downfall narrative, but it's clear after this laundry list of injuries that the Warriors probably could have at least put up a fight if even a couple of these didn't happen. That summer, KD signed with the Nets and Klay was to miss the next season. Then Curry broke his hands 5 games in, and the Warriors went 15-50. Even the next year, Klay re-injured himself, and even though Curry came back and played amazing, they still couldn't make the playoffs. The Warriors dynasty was over. Going into the 2022 season, the Warriors were definitely up there as far as championship odds, but not favorites. Plus, these predictions were greatly based on speculation of how good Klay was going to be when he returned, as well as many people hoping to see a big jump from Wiggins and Jordan Poole. And through the first months of the season, the Warriors came out proving why they were back to contenders. They held the first seed almost every day until mid-September. Unfortunately, Curry had a slump beginning in early November that he never really snapped out of fully. This led the Warriors to slide down the standings over the following months, even after Klay Thompson returned. Then, in mid-March, while in a close race for the second seed with the Grizzlies, Curry got injured and missed the rest of the regular season. The Warriors slid down to the third seed and appeared again that they were bound to end the dynasty. Then, the playoffs started. Curry came back and came off the bench for the first 4 games. This didn't stop him from averaging 28 points on 50-40 shooting splits. Klay and Poole also averaged 20 on 50-40, and Andrew Wiggins averaged 14 on 50-50. The second round was not as much of a party. The team struggled, taking 6 games to beat the Grizzlies with an injured Ja Morant. Luckily for them, the Suns choked against the Mavericks, giving them a favorable matchup in the conference finals. They beat the Mavericks by committee over the course of 5 games, having 6 players average over 10. Their NBA Finals matchup was a young Celtics team. They were shocked in Game 1 when the Celtics shot 75% from 3 in the fourth quarter to win. Then after taking Game 2, they also lost Game 3 pretty badly and things were not looking good. But in Game 4, Steph exploded for 43 points, leading to a win. Then in Game 5, Steph Curry struggled pretty badly, but Andrew Wiggins had himself a game with 26 points and 13 rebounds. Then in the series clinching Game 6, Curry had 34 to win his first Finals MVP. In the series, he averaged 31 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals to win the Warriors their 4th ring in 8 years. Normally around this point in the dynasty is where it ends. The 90s Bulls even only lasted 8 years, but I don't see the same thing happening for these Warriors. I'd say that as far as the next season, they are the favorites to win again, assuming no crazy moves take place. Even though Steph, Klay, and Draymond are getting older, a good amount of their team is young and improving. Even after the stars truly start to decline below star level, I think they will take a lower contract and bring a much-needed veteran role to the team like Iggy in 2015. Basically, if they play their cards right, we could see a lot more success coming in the future for this group. Well, that's it for video number 2. I put a lot of time into this one and would appreciate if you like and subscribe. I can only upload about once a week because I do all of the scripting, recording, and editing for these videos. Maybe one day I hope to get an editor, but I can't get there without your support. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out.